ownership the new Strand. It was offered to us in terms of commercial confidentiality, whatever. We have to take that on board, but we just decided it would be better owned by the people of Sefton than be owned by a foreign, non-tax-paying organisation. There's loads of issues here. This is nothing to do with this panel here today.
My point is, you are not engaging with the majority of the people who are affected. In that case, it was 2% with Whittle Strand. In the case of the Maritime Corridor, you've had 120 responses. Now, in those 2 wards alone, there are 23,000 people. Apart from the thousands of motorists who use the Maritime Corridor, and you are imposing 6 new cycle lanes.
And again, these are political decisions, and that's not what this panel is.
But the engagement rate is your...
The engagement of our citizens and how we can do that as best as we can, you saw discussed here today. At the end of the day, we all know that the engagement rate of society and of communities as a whole is very low, and that, I think that's a great shame.
Well, why not have public meetings?
I think that's a great shame,
Well,
because
we have public elections. Only 20 to 30% of people
engaged in those. Not the best way to engage people.
Because the way you're treating us, when people try to speak up, we are silenced, and that is the way the people are.
You have every opportunity through the various and variety and huge numbers of consultation processes to make your voices.
Get to hear about them.
I mean,
you didn't get to hear about
I live by the Maritime Corridor.
It would have been nice to be able to ask the lady who was presenting if they've actually looked at some of the projects that are failing and the public backlash that's happening in Oxford and other cities, and they've seen some of the biggest protests outside of London in Oxford in a backlash against these traffic calming measures. And do we have to wait until this you put these measures in place and then the system will be getting torn down? Which, like the ULEZ cameras in London, 75% of them are getting torn down.
We haven't got any around.
We haven't got
But
any.
no, but if this is a future plan, part of future plan, well, good.
Well, the cycling lanes are a plan, though.
This is the government legislation.
Yeah,
the government imposes
Right.
upon us.
So in that you said we did the main point was congestion, and there was no answer in the we did part which addresses the increased congestion. There was nothing in there. It's all word salads with no.
I think we
solution
as a nation, as more people get cars, and we have a national conversation around how we get people. I came by public transport today. Who in this room came by public transport?
Not me.
But we don't want to come. It's our choice. But you're trying to force us off the road.
You don't want congestion. But you don't want congestion. People don't want more roads. They don't want to use public transport. So then, what is your answer?
You are adding to the congestion.
No.
I mean, this lady who presented, she actually admitted herself that it could some of the measures that are getting taken could end up making things worse. And where you've got like certain roads that might get blocked off that parents use to go to schools, and then you send them off in a big longer direction.
I think that's a misrepresentation.
I think she said.
She said we have already identified that there could be issues, and she then went to some pain to talk about how we were going to mitigate those.
No, she didn't. She didn't say how are we going to mitigate.
We're in a
still in consultation.
Well, then I think that's okay, because there maybe needed more consultation and discussion maybe needed to mitigate it.
I mean, we're hopping and jumping here. We're moving towards roads and transport. This meeting today is about the process of consultation and engagement. And if you want to talk about, road access and so forth, plan after plan after plan. We built a whole new, the government built a whole new road, the Brooms Cross Road. There's a plan to put a road down the Rimrose Valley. There's a realignment of the whole of the Switch Islands realigned. Have these things improved? No, because there's just more traffic on the road. But these are issues that are beyond just Sefton Council.
Yeah.
Certainly beyond our engagement, the people of the area, the Dunningsbridge Road, which Liz represents part of, these people they've been hammered from every which way about changes and the amount of traffic and the noise and the pollution and so forth. And these are the things that we try to deal with as well. It's a wide range, but these are political issues about the political management of the way that the community that we represent lives and works. Not necessarily about engagement. One of the things that I noted today was one of our officers says, if only there had been a local newspaper that we could have advertised these things. That's the change. We have found recently that there isn't that opportunity to engage with people like there used to be. We in politics rely upon putting our direct leaflets out. We used to be able to take an advert in the paper and hope that we would get to those supplementary people, but these don't exist anymore. So we are experimenting with sending out text, putting things on the website, all sorts of social media. But then again, people say, well, social media is only those mainly younger people and those people who have the luxury of being able to access these things. And we realise that that is not the perfection of consultation and engagement that we would like to have. I think it probably was a little bit better when there were local newspapers.
I think so.
You could
It was an
advertise in and
opportunity.
people could put a letter to the
Yeah, they
editor
could.
in and exchange information like that. So we're living in a transitional period now, I think, of where people are not engaging in the same way that they used to, and they're not telling us, and it's difficult to really get that. But you have all the knowledge, obviously.
This is our point, that your process of engagement is not fit for purpose, because you are doing something on your website and
What would you suggest that we do?
questionnaires.
For an example,
And questionnaires, sorry.
where my daughter lives in Birmingham, there was a 5G mast that was going to be put on the street. First time she heard about it was from the local councillor, who put leaflets throughout the whole of that area to let the residents know, to give them an opportunity to object. And that councillor worked with the residents and they got that turned down. That councillor will be voted in over and over and over again because he's worked with them and alerted them to it. And I think as councillors, I know you've got a lot of work to do, but
So I've had 2 in my ward
yeah,
that I have objected to. Now, you have to understand, these will be objected to and they won't be erected there, but they will be erected
Yeah.
Same in
somewhere
my
else.
ward. Is
Because
exactly
we
the
have
same.
no choice about that as an authority. This is
You
government
have,
legislation. No,
yeah,
we
but
have.
no,
It will have to go somewhere else.
There's actually been court cases, historic court cases, where it says that the councillors do have to take health into consideration. There's been 2
And
previously.
we have.
But
But they will be moved.
But then it's about time somebody actually stood up and said we need to stop this because it's harming people's health.
But I
it's
think
harming
that's
the
your
environment.
view. With all
It's
due
not my
respect,
view. It's the
She
view
has
of
evidence.
thousands of research
and there are
publications.
thousands of people.
There's not thousands
There
of
are thousands of people who will say we want our 5G.
Did
But
you
do
read
they know the
Annie's
risk?
email?
Do they know the risk?
Have you read
The
what they want?
the courts have actually come down on this.
No.
There's a child
And
who's
again,
been.
I'm really sorry, but this is
you're-
a particular
but you're
issue,
talking about
and it's
something.
not
Yeah,
for
but it's
this
an example.
panel.
It's an example of you're not letting me
of you
speak.
not listening.
But
There's
the
fire
role of
hazards,
this
and as I
panel-
know you deal with the fire safety side of things, and I am actually in touch with the experts in the field in the USA who are engineers, fire experts. Those fires in California that have caused billions of pounds worth of damage were due to radiation, the electrical faults from these masts. And this needs to be taken seriously because lives were lost then. Firefighters were injured. And this research, there is thousands of research publications, just because it's one of the biggest money-making industries in the world, shouldn't allow us as people for our health to be put at risk.
You see, in
And we're
fact,
asking you to defend
listen
us,
and-
defend the people, fight
Yeah.
against it.
in fairness,
And
you
let the
see,
public
we're parents
Yeah.
and grandparents, and sometimes the experts will say, oh, this is completely safe, there's no problem here. Somebody over here says, well, no, you've got to question that. I think what we try to do is to take a community reasonable approach. And that is that we're dealing with the best available evidence that we have. Because we know that for every expert document that is produced, there's an expert document produced over here. And we're trying to plough a path that gives our communities the safest possible outcome. Now, nothing in the world of technology, you can be absolutely certain about. We try, so for instance, there was recently a mast proposed right next to Marine Football Club.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, well, this is a location of, lots of people, it would be better to move it. But the legislation, which was changed, as you know, is that we are only now consultees on that. And so they have decided to move, or they will move the mast to somewhere else.
But the 1974 Environmental Act actually puts you in responsibility for it as councillors, because you're responsible for the health and well-being of the people you represent. Which is why I would say, okay, we feel from a health point of view, don't go there. The better answer, of course, is to take the whole issue out of streetworks and put it back into formal planning applications. Absolutely.
But that's not what the government will allow.
That's where we need to be fighting it back against the government.
There is the issue.
So why
all of that.
Glastonbury Council did exactly that. And I've got some of the best experts in the world. I've been involved with this for over 20 years and at the highest level in the world. And I've got some of the best experts that I could bring to the table if you wanted to do a full investigation and inquiry on this. Glastonbury Council did, and they actually wrote to me afterwards and said, please get your councillors to do the same. They were not going to allow the residents that they represented to be guinea pigs. But Liverpool has actually got the biggest 5G network in the whole of the UK. It's the second biggest in the world. And what terrifies me is the fact that when I read this report, that Sefton are actually going to start working with Liverpool, and this is going to come throughout Sefton. How many people need to be injured to suffer, to die because of it? All, we're
going to have to go now.
Yeah, I know.
What if you're wrong?
I'm not wrong.
Exactly.
I am absolutely not wrong.
Exactly.
There's court cases that have shown it's not wrong.
They would show the other side.
They're not showing
if you're wrong.
These court cases have looked at both sides.
People want connectivity. They want it because it brings jobs. It brings a future.
But hang on a moment. You said you helped fight against those masts. When an application goes near someone's house,
they were not in the best.
But when an application goes near someone's home, you get hundreds, if not thousands, of objections. So you know the public don't want them. I put a petition out which was addressed to Bill Esterson, and it got over 5,000 people who signed it. So people don't want them. You know they don't want them because you've seen the response.
They want the 5G. They want the connectivity.
Do they want the 5G
near their house?
No, well, exactly, and they shouldn't be near people's house. They devalue their house. They're causing ill health.
I agree. And in those circumstances, we object.
The energy that these masts need as well, and the radiation impacts of the increase in radiation that these masts give out is just terrifying. Not just for the public, but for the wildlife. And the whole environment as a whole.
Passionate view.
Have you read Irene's email? Can you answer that question?
And it's thousands. I'm quoting thousands of research publications.
It is not the view.
It's the view of Sir William Stewart, the previous Health Protection Agency chairman.
It is not the view of thousands of other.
Well, you counter Irene's email then.
Well, let them all see what's. Let them all see what's in that email.
And I think if you had a vote on it tomorrow, I'm sorry, I think you'd lose.
You respond.
I don't think so, because you've seen the response that you've had. Yeah. You've seen the response you've had back from phone mast applications near people's homes. They don't want them.
They don't want them near their homes.
They don't want
but they want the connectivity.
But in a way, that doesn't matter. It's exactly the same whether it was 3G, 4G, 5G. Everybody was the same.
5G is a bigger energy guzzler. And so, people might want the connectivity.
Do you have a smartphone?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So people might want the connectivity,
Then
but
that must be difficult.
if they do, no, it's not difficult at all because I use a hardwired phone.
How
and a
many
hard-
people do you think don't have smartphones?
Well, we've got one here.
Precisely.
That's a sort of question I get from the industry all the time. So, it's not going to work if that's a sort of response
I'm
given
sorry
to a
that's
member
so
of the public.
condescending, Liz.
Because
How do you
have a
expect
smartphone.
to get public engagement when this is how you react to public?
It doesn't
Because
mean...
we equally get, I mean, in
I'm
there's-
offering to work
there's
with you, and you're
blind
offering
spots
insulting remarks back.
in my
Condescending.
ward, and where there are blind spots, you get people who are lobbying for. It's very important to us that we have connectivity.
We'll go for fibre optic.
And,
All other options
I
work.
mean, most of the borough is connected through fibre.
Well, that's
optics.
good.
And all round where
I'm
I
not
live
against
is,
technology,
but
I'm
in
for
Ainsdale,
safe
say
technology.
people would say, well, there's very poor, radio connectivity and so forth. So
People
you've got,
complain about it, don't they?
there's
Yes.
both sides of the argument to look at in a way, and we can only deal with what we can deal with. This particular group here is about consultation. Then the next thing is, well, I mean, I was very frustrated about the masts that were proposed around the parks in Victoria Ward and at the football ground, and we got them moved. But I know full well that they'll only be moved to somewhere else. And then you've got this thing then, people coming to me and sort of saying, oh, I can't get connected, and all that sort of. So in a way, we can only deal with what we can deal with. Some of this is about national legislation and about the way that that used to be each application had to have a planning of its own planning application. Then it became streetworks. That was a detriment, really. And but I think with all of these things, the future will tell. The jury is out. We have children, grandchildren, as I say. We want a safe community, but we don't equally want a community where people would say, don't go and live there in Crosby because your phone will never work. Don't go and live there in McGull because your phone will never work. And
That's where I go and live.
What I'm just about to go and do now, my job is to do mortgage valuations, and people will buy houses and they will look at the Zoopla information, will tell what the speed, what the upload download speed are, and they will buy houses more likely if they're that type of person in areas where there is better connectivity.
Where are the lenders going to give the money to someone who's right next to a big
No,
phone?
they're not
line?
interested in that. That has not penetrated
Well, it will.
through it.
I mean, because they can't get insurance.
but
for
that's
it,
what
and
people
who
said
is-
with 3G. It never happened.
Yeah, but who's actually insuring you as a council? Who is your insurance? Because the industry can't get insurance for this.
We self-insure most of
So
the
yourself. So this
Like
could
most
be.
councils do.
Most.
So, and
We can't afford that anymore.
have you read the comments from the barrister that is contained within my letter as well?
Because there's 10 other barristers with 10 other views. You know that.
Well, you produce them then?
I don't
It
need to,
still
do I?
comes down.
Counter
It still comes down to the judge and the jury, and then you can't.
You have a real passion.
But you can't say-
for your objection to this, and you're absolutely entitled to it. And I'm sure that some of what you say may well, there may be issues that come up in the future.
There are issues now.
But in terms of here today, and quite frankly, the representations you're making to us in the function that we undertake as a panel, we're not able to deal with these.
Yes, you are.
But we are able.
You are about engagement
But
with
I am
the public.
hearing you as obviously as an elected member. But as Les says, the interesting thing is, and we do object to masts, particularly where they're by people's houses, and we do that quite
We've
successfully.
seen even the
But they
headmistresses
are
of the
moved.
schools who are objecting
And then
against them.
but they're inevitably moved to somewhere else.
And they generally
still appear.
do follow that.
They do.
They're quite good in that
Yeah.
respect.
And can I also point out, Liz, when you wouldn't let me speak in the meeting before, that FOI response I had said that somebody can speak in the meeting, and I wanted to speak about engagement, and you prevented me, even though I know I have a right to speak.
I have different advice, and at the end of the day,
This is in writing. It's in
and
black
quite
and
frankly,
white.
at the end of the day, That is.
It's from your.
It's from the council.
It's from the council.
I have different
It's from
advice.
Tina Berry.
But it's my decision about how you were invited
Is it?
here.
I
Yes,
didn't
'cause I'm
think
the-
so.
I'm the chair of the
Well,
panel. So
It's a public
you're-
engagement.
I am
It's a
speaking to
public
you.
meeting.
We're not in
I'm
the
very
panel
happy
anymore.
to
This is a
speak to
private
you.
meeting now.
Yeah.
And, in terms of recording it, please, I'm very happy for a private
Me
meeting
too.
recorded, but don't cut segments out of it and edit it in any way
Absolutely, have it in
whatsoever.
its
If you're going to
entirety.
publish its entirety.
We will. We will.
And then the other thing is, as always in all meetings, the chair of the meeting has the discretion to decide, because that's what we call good governance.
I've not.
Excuse me,
Where's that in your constitution?
Okay,
That
fair
is not in your
I
constitution.
think if you're going to say
No,
it's
Les.
not in your constitution, I'm
Les,
off.
can I just ask a question before you go? 'Cause I know
Okay,
you are
okay.
involved with the firefighters. And I appreciate that. Because I did a lot of work with the firefighters some years back with the mast that was,
I need to get
where
my coat.
Buckle Hill station was. And
Sorry, I
Have to go to work.
the reports that I've had that are only a recent panel in the USA that discussed all the fire risks with them, I think it would be something really worthwhile for you to have a look at, and to take.
I mean, you see, the thing is this, you can send me paperwork that thick that says
It's-
everything about it, and until the government give any credibility to that, there is absolutely nothing.
People like fire authority, so in your position, you're in a position of
To do
power
what?
where you could write to the government and demand that they do something, or demand that they look at this information, and give some feedback to you and to the
Thanks, Jane.
firefighters. I've got a report there from the firefighters in Birmingham who were called to attend a mass that was on the ground. When they got there, they obviously can't put water on it because that type of energy that's coming off it could just, definitely until it's switched off. And when the firefighters got there, they all experienced radiation sickness symptoms. I've got it in the report. And they were asked to go and see paramedics, which they just came away from the scene until the mast was switched off. And then eventually it was able to be sorted. But these people, the firefighters had the radiation sickness symptoms, and that mast just went straight back up right outside people's homes. And this it's a very real, very serious issue, one that can't be ignored, and especially if they're going to be bringing 5G throughout the whole of Sefton. I'm already concerned for Liverpool as it is.
I mean, Fire Brigade Union normally top of all
work
of
with
these
them as
issues.
well.
And none of them have lobbied me on this.
Yeah, it was some years ago. They lobbied. There was a big lobby group on it because they ended up getting that antennae removed off the pole that they were training on.
I was involved with some of the 5G
Or it put Peter
stuff.
Dowd on it as well.
Good old Peter.
It was very helpful.
The thing is, I had some lobbying over the 5G, and I went some years ago, and I went to our chief officer and I asked this, and the answer that came back is, at that point in time, there was no 5G in Merseyside.
No.
This is going back so far.
Yeah, well, it wasn't 5G then.
Exactly. It's
But
three and
it
four.
doesn't matter, that's still dangerous. And that's what they were objecting against, so they've got moved. But then they've got masts right round the station now. So we really need to
I mean, we
check with
still
the fire authority,
we have to have the airwave systems that we use, which are part
Tetra.
of. It's the
Very
Tetra.
biologically active.
I mean, this is part. It's the largest European project going on. Capital project is to replace our airwave, and but this is the government. So there's the specification for it. There is what it is. So some of the masts that you will see around our stations are to do with our airwave system, which is part of the national procurement. We're far too far on
In the
with that.
USA, they have to have a setback from the stations because it was affecting, they've shown in the brain scans, it was affecting the brain.
Well, I'll be very happy to look at all of that, but none of that has emerged into the debate.
I'll send it to you. It's contained within that letter.
May I say that, just please record this, the way that you've conducted this today has not helped your case. I feel that the hectoring attitude that you've taken to this meeting has not helped your case. And if you write to me honestly, I am less likely to give it credibility only in the way, please record this, only in the way that this has been conducted today. It's not really helped your case.
Why? We weren't allowed to speak. We are
We're here as
Sefton
observers.
residents.
There we are.
Well, how do we get to speak as a meeting? Because we will be at
Well,
the
this
next
is
one.
all part of it, you see, isn't it? You know?
But we will be at the next one.
Anyway.
Might as well leave.
Okie doke, we're done.
Absolutely unbelievable.